What's up, brother? Mingo. LA Dodgers. No, that's all right. He's going to hear me at some point. Eric Johnson, what's up, my man? Good to see you, brother.
How you doing?
I'm good, man. Oh, Tanisha's on. Hey. I see Becca.
What up?
Tyrell, Al, Stephanie, Ken, Carol, John. Hey, John, you already know all this, John. Just playing, man. Okay, guys, welcome. Thank you guys so much for jumping on. We're excited that you're here. I see Erica Porter, Adrian Vargas, Jennifer Jones, Stephanie Parker. I see you guys. Let's see. Who else we got? Got a bunch of people jumping on. Sorry if I haven't said your name. There's too many of you guys. Ciara, I see you. Rita, Madison. It's just somebody named Q. KD. All right. We see you guys, man. Glad you guys are on. Well, we're gonna get started here in a moment. We're just gonna give people a couple minutes. You guys are all on time, making it happen. Maybe your little cabin fever. I don't know, but excited to be on. So, all right. Let's see who else. All right, we see Ricardo on there. Yeah. Rachel, I see you. Michael, welcome, brother. See an Aaliyah. All right, man. It's good. It's good. All right, man. Just gonna give it one more moment and then we'll get into it, friends. I'm so glad all you guys are on. All right, I got one more minute. We're gonna start off, kick off at 4:03 p.m. At least that's a Pacific Standard Time. For you guys on the East Coast, welcome. We know it's a little bit after 7. Hope you had a good dinner. Excited to have you guys on. If you guys can see, yeah, in the chat, we'd love to know where you're from, where you're coming from. Chicagoland, Anaheim. Man, I'm in Anaheim. That's crazy. Pomona. So, all right. Just let us know where you're at, where you guys are coming from. Santana. Cincinnati. Dinuba. Wow, okay. Dinuba's in the house. I bet you didn't know I knew where that was. So Berkeley, NYC's in the house. Temecula, Azusa, Charlotte. All right. I'll see you guys. Ooh, Visalia too. Visalia and Danuba in the house. Central Valley, California. Beautiful. All right, friends. Well, my name's Tommy Nixon. I'm the CEO of Urban Youth Workers Institute. We're so glad that you guys are on the call. I hope that you know how much we're rooting for you. We're here to encourage you to make sure you're doing okay and to make sure that you're a resource so that you can continue to work to reach your youth with the gospel of Jesus Christ. And I want to tell you, friends, you guys are my heroes. People don't know. People have no idea how important urban youth workers are on the front lines. And so I really believe, if you've seen, I've been doing some videos on Instagram about the future is here. And I believe so deeply that you guys, you specifically, are raising up this next iteration of the church. And God is doing something incredible, even in the midst of this pandemic. And I really feel like he's shaping this next iteration of the church. And it looks like all the students that you guys are chasing after and engaging. So from the bottom of my heart, I just want to let you know and say thank you that we believe in you. We're for you. And like we say a lot, we are you. We're all doing this together. And so thankful for each and every one of you. A couple things like just rules of engagement for our call today. We're going to ask you just if your mics aren't muted, go ahead and mute that. If you can, put your video on. We'd love to see you. And I know our speaker, whoever we have sharing, it's always nice to see some of those faces on there as well. So go put your video on. When we have a time for question and answers, you can put that in the chat. if you're following us right now on Facebook Live, you can put that on Facebook as well. And we have somebody that'll send it right over to the Zoom call, and we'll make sure that your question is seen and engaged with. And so here's what we're going to be doing today. First, we have Eric Vasquez, who's the executive director of Just Us for Youth, and I'll introduce him in a minute. But after I'm done, he's gonna share about how to do virtual mentoring groups. And this guy he's gangster at it. He's amazing. And so excited for that. Then we're going to go into a time of Q&A with Eric. Then I have just a couple announcements, so you know how we're continuing to resource you and what are some things that you can push into on that. And then we're going to pray, and then we'll be done for today. And so that's our agenda for today. So I'd love to introduce you to a good friend of mine. His name is Eric Vasquez, and he started an organization called Just Us for Youth. Now, Eric has been part of the UYWI family since he was in high school. And this man is an incredible leader. And so he runs an organization called Just Us for Youth that he founded. And what they do is they work with over 2,000 of the highest at-risk youth in Pomona and surrounding school districts. And they've created a program where they go in the schools. They basically go to the principal and go, give us your hardest kids, and we'll work with them. And we'll see them improve so they can get back on track with their lives. And so they engage in crazy ways. This man puts his life, literally has put his life on the line for the kingdom of God. One time I'm sorry, Eric, I'm going to share this story, bro. But he was taking a kid home who was green lit. And if you're familiar with gang terminology, meant like they could kill this man. And he was taking him home, and a car stopped in front of him, got out, and started shooting at Eric and this young man who was in his car. So when I say he has put his life on the line for the kingdom, he has. I love this man. And so he's going to be sharing with us today how they are doing virtual groups. Another amazing story about him just happened during this pandemic is they are school-based. And as you know, many schools were shut down. And since schools were shut down, he thought, man, I'm going to have to let all my staff go. And we're going to have to try to figure this out. And was able within a 24-hour period to bring his team together, create a whole digital engagement plan, bring it to these school districts. And the school districts loved it so much, they kept him on. And so he was able to retain all his staff. They were still able to work with all the students, a lot of their students, and continue to mentor them even through this time. And so this isn't somebody that's just trying to figure out the mentoring process or how to do it digitally. This man has led him and his team to do it in a great and amazing way. So if that's enough, if I gassed you up enough, right, Eric? I know you're embarrassed, bro. I know you're humble dude, bro, but I love you, man. And I'm so excited to introduce Eric Vasquez for us.
Thank you, Tommy. Shout out to the UYWI fam and everybody that's on the call, man. It's been a blessing just to be invited to share with you all. And I just want to share before I jump in that I've been so inspired by each of you. I've been kind of watching and following what UYWI is doing and all the comments and efforts that you guys are putting in, man. I've been praying for you guys and the kingdom expansion that's still going and is a stronger movement than anything we've ever seen. And also my heart sentiments and compassion goes out to many of you whose livelihoods are sometimes, on the line. And I remember being in full-time ministry in a traditional church context and just so stressed and worried about my family. So, my heart goes to you guys and I love you and I'm praying for you. Today, I just want to share a little bit about the fact that I've been blessed to kind of lead a conversation around virtual mentoring and what that's going to look like now as we are moving into these pandemic times, but also beyond that. We've put the link into the chat for the handout. And I want to encourage you guys to use this, what we've created with your teams in your digital meetings. All the answers for the fill in the blanks are there. And there's also hyperlinks built into the handout for you to deepen your learning around certain topics that I list out in my slide deck. And then all throughout today we're going to have interactive question and answers. So feel free to throw those in the chat. My boy Tommy and I will kind of moderate, and I'm willing to pivot and pause at any time to meet like the real needs of the room. So I'm gonna just say a quick prayer and then jump in. All right, Lord, I just thank you for this time for my brothers and sisters. Bless them, be with us. Let there be learning happening so that we can continue the good work and soul one for your sake, Lord. We pray these things in your name. Amen. Well, I'm going to just share a quick overview of our time. We hope to just talk through the slide deck and deepen our realization around what God is really up to in this time. We're going to reconsider together our callings and our kingdom efforts, particularly in discipleship and mentoring. We're going to deepen our understanding around the real needs of our youth during these times, and just, regularly, there's some trends happening right now in the culture. We're going to prepare for now and for the future, building plans, developing processes, and then executing with excellence together. Share out some best practices, and the larger bulk of the time will be with me kind of sharing what we're doing at Justice for Youth. And I believe that through the sharing of some of these resources and just kind of talking through what we've been able to figure out, I know that there's going to be some learning happening and sharing that will bless the masses. And I think I'll even walk away learning from what you guys are doing today. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen, and you guys will probably be able to see my slide deck. And I'm going to go ahead and begin to present. And again, my topic is just on virtual mentoring. And I want to begin by just talking about realizing, right? Like, I don't know if you are up on game yet, but there is a revival that's about to happen, man. And this revival is digital. And preparing ourselves as a church, the kingdom is so important. And that revival, there's going to be an emphasis on small groups and on individual discipleship and spiritual mentoring. And this is going to happen beyond this pandemic, right? So like here at Justice for Youth, we realized that, God was helping us fulfill the vision he had given us. And he was trying to teach us, like, this isn't just for now. You want to fulfill the Great Commission. You want to take this gospel to the ends of the earth. Well, this is how it's going to happen, right? It's going to happen in the digital space. So I know I've had some great revelations, happening right now, kind of in this context. Now, when you hear me talk about mentoring, I want to further define mentoring because I think it helps paint the picture of what we're talking about and the way we kind of want to go with our efforts in discipleship. Mentoring is to suggest the best course of action in life through advising and training. That's our scope right now, right? We're getting away from these entertainment models, these congregational models, and we're moving back to pure discipleship. There's advising and training. Mentoring means to guide, to counsel, to advocate, commend, recommend, and admonish. And it means to teach a particular skill. In this case, it's a spiritual skill, spiritual disciplines, or types of behaviors through practice and instruction. And that's important for us to understand, to realize that, dude, God is doing us a favor right now. And he, amidst these times, is forcing the church back to its original intent. And then he's blowing up the dysfunctions that have been in existence in the church for so long. Two of them that I want to mention is, the first one is pride. I could remember times when I was ministering, from behind the pulpit, and my head was just blowing up with each and every amen, and seeing kids locked in through my charisma, whoop-de-woo, whatever that may be, right? But, that pride is kicked out the window right now because you behind the screen now and you ain't got your cheerleaders no more, And then the second one is greed. I remember being a senior pastor of a church, at 19, 20, and I was trying to figure it out. And I saw like these light bulbs turned on, like greed could slip in so fast. And now the churches are scrambling, trying to figure out how they're going to pay their staff, right? So it's kind of funny how God's working. But I think humbling ourselves and preparing ourselves for what's going to be happening is so important. I want to interact with you, engage you, and I want you to answer this question in the chat. And the question I pose, it requires transparency. It requires honesty. And then I'm going to select one or two people to share out. And Tommy, as I'm in this, I can't view the chat, so I'm going to rely on you to pick the two people that will have share out. But the question is, what was unhealthy, unbiblical, ungodly about the way that you were doing ministry up until this pandemic? I want you to take a moment. I want you to answer that question, and then we'll spend some time sharing out. And I'll share a little bit of mine. I think for me, it was like definitely being too busy and thinking too big and forgetting that like less is more, and understanding that the small things often bring the big results, right? Being committed and being dedicated to the small things is important. And those small things for me now mean having digital mentoring appointments with broken youth, you know, like not forgetting that and seeing how important that is. So Tommy, I'm gonna let you click in and pick two things, have two people share out if you would.
That's a lot of pressure, Eric, because these guys are geniuses, man. All right, okay, a couple more. All right, I see it. Dude, I'd love Tanisha Walton. Tanisha, if you can share a little bit about success metrics a little bit, I think that would be really helpful. And as you share, I'm going to pick somebody else too.
Can you hear me? Yeah, hi everybody. Yeah,
Hey,
before pre-corona, every event, I would feel like we got to get kids in. We got to have numbers. It has to be lit. It has to be jumping. We got to have people. And, if one or two or three kids came, it just felt like, wah, wah, it was, and it was always like, if you're talking to other youth pastors, it's like, how many kids you got coming? How many people are you reaching? So I think that is an ungodly model. And I think even in this time, so I'm so interested in this mentoring, how do you just reach one-on-one with people is very important.
Thank you for sharing. That's huge. Tommy, you got our next one loaded up?
Yeah. So would love because I got another agree with it, but Caleb Reed, man, he said not slowing down to take a Sabbath, which I think is huge. Caleb, can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah.
Check. We good? Yeah, I think just getting caught up in the busyness and just go all the time, and always pouring out, always giving in to others, but not taking that time for myself to pour into myself. Even though I thought I really wasn't. And so it's kind of putting the brakes on and taking that pause to allow me to have some time to take a breather and to take a break, and even seeing that in this time being challenging, but I'm being more intentional in this time for myself, because I'm connected digitally to everything we're doing 24/7.
Yeah, and what I would call that is, allowing yourself to be a good mentee of the Holy Spirit, letting the Holy Spirit mentor you, bro. And I think a lot of us are in that space. So thank you both for sharing. I really want to transition and start talking about, we're having these realizations take place. God is aligning our hearts back to the gospel and the way and the manner in which he wants us to work through these things. And then now we're having to reconsider what evangelism looks like, what discipleship looks like, what leadership looks like, and what planting and sending looks like within a youth frame, within a mentoring context, within a digital context. Now, all of a sudden, this blows up everything that we're used to. But again, I want to say less is more, small is big. If it's for one, it's worth it, right? One soul is worth it. And I think when we activate as a church like that, that's when multiplication begins to truly happen. So as we move to the understanding, in your handouts, I'm not going to go deep into this section now, but we talk about understanding the culture and having these insights of the Gen Zers, right? Like, dude, they're digital natives, they're entrepreneurial, they're way less religious, right? And they're tending to be like the lonely culture. So not only do we have to have those insights about the culture, but also about the language. Like one of the things that even as a, let's see, 18-year believer, sometimes I can't stomach watching Christian leaders teach, preach, because I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? The hood kid in me still doesn't understand what you're saying. You're talking in Christianese. And if mentoring is going to be done well, there needs to be very simple language so that it's understandable and transferable, right? So really breaking down the way that you're going to be advising and training and teaching is so key. And then the next one we talk about is the deep need, right? This is the lonely generation. There's a mental health crisis happening now, but even before this, it was happening. And every, like, I want to say what I've learned in my experience is every 6 to 8 years, there are these trends that kind of sweep across the youth culture. And this last couple of years, and I think this one's going to go double a 16-year run, is the mental health crises. Because of them being digital natives, the amount of depression, anxiety, self-harm, suicide is increasing. So I love the quote that's there, right? The web does not just connect, machines. It actually connects people. Understanding that you have an opportunity right now to seize these gospel opportunities to share with these beautiful children of God. I just read a book about gospel fluency, and I think that one of the things we're challenged about right now is developing a digital gospel fluency. The way we relate it and the way the book relates it is, for me, if I want to speak in Spanish, then I have to translate it in my head first, and then I got to spew it out, and vice versa, right? So there's this translations that's happening, but when I'm fluent, that is not happening anymore. It's just coming out naturally, right? So moving to a digital fluency is so important. So I want to pause. I want to engage one more time. And I want to ask you, what are you missing in your approach currently and your methodology that is causing you to have a measure of ineffectiveness in reaching the Gen Z culture? So, UYWI is all about developing the next gen leader. It's all about the youth culture and within an urban context, finding these kids that are unchurched, that don't know the Lord, and then just bringing them closer and having that great invitation to them, right? So I want you to really think about this. And then in the chat, I want you to answer this. Tommy's going to help me out again, and we're going to spotlight 1 to 2 people who will share out. And as you're thinking through it, I'm going to talk over and just mention that I've been watching the previous Zoom calls and Facebook Lives, and this kind of connects to pain points that Tommy's been talking about. So maybe it's a lack of a desire to change, a little stubbornness in you. Maybe it's, lack of resource. Maybe it's a lack of buy-in. Like, I want you to think through every category from approach to methodology. What is causing you to have ineffectiveness at this moment? Okay, so Tommy, I'm gonna let you chime in and pick the 2 that you think would be best.
All right, friends, as you kind of answer that, I'm gonna go ahead and pick one. I'm looking at who's what you guys got. Yeah, let's see. I'd love, let me pick on Eric Johnson for a minute. Eric, and we'll just pick one person, but Eric said the knowledge to shift my effectiveness from being in person physically to that digital space. And I think there's some really important things in that. Eric, can you share on that, brother?
Yeah, I mean, I'm great, and I don't mean that bragging, but I'm great in person. In a room with students, amazing. But now we have to do all this digitally, and how do I make that same connection? Especially since in the format that we're going in, this will be with a brand new group of students that we haven't engaged before.
Thank you so much, Eric. And I think by the end of this Zoom conference, we'll be able to answer like how we could really increase our effectiveness in those areas. So I'm going to move into our prepare section. We're going to prepare together, right? To be effective, to build plans, to develop processes, and then to execute with excellence. I pride myself on being a believer who brings excellence all the time. We have to set the tone. We have to come with it. So I'm going to now jump into kind of what we're doing and how we could kind of share out those learnings and hopefully accelerate what you do, so you could continue to be dope at reaching youth. So the first thing here is I kind of have this model of big, small, tiny, right? These are the forms of mentoring that we could prepare for, but re-envision what big is, right? So for us, big is restorative circles. We facilitate restorative circles. The reason why I got into doing RJ, restorative justice, is because it really was the ministry of reconciliation to me, right? So I was really attracted to never go higher than 12 in my restorative circles. And essentially, I'm getting to preach gospel principles with kids on public school campuses without exclusively saying Jesus, right? But just the fact that we're gathering with 12 and there's a true discipleship and a transference happening, like that's huge. So, and I love that these numbers are God's numbers, right? In a small group setting, let me back up, forgive me. In a circle setting, the big setting, there's a lot of learning, there's a lot of growing, and that's how you could create community right now for students, where you can gather, a few more, and there's going to be some shared struggles, there's going to be some shared strengths. You're going to be able to kind of agree in unison on certain things. You're going to get to grow together, build together. There's going to be a unity happening, right? So the learn and grow stage is happening right now. And then in the cluster or the small groups, this is no more than 7. So my boy, John McKellar's on the line. I saw him, and he has developed these cluster groups. They're kind of like affinity groups. And we started thinking through, well, what do kids really love, right? Maybe they're gamers. Maybe these kids, love pets. Maybe these dudes love music. These are hip hop heads. Maybe these kids really love writing, whatever it may be, poetry, knitting, anime, whatever it may be. I don't connect with some of those things, but shoot, other people do. And don't fool yourself, in the urban context, these are still alive and well, right? So, John has created this cluster model where there's a lot of focus, a particular affinity, and there's upskilling happening. This is where a lot of training is happening. Like, we want to help kids get better at doing what they're passionate about. You want to talk about helping kids fulfill their purpose? Shoot, we do that in a cluster group, right? The last one that I want to talk about and what was referenced is that one-on-one setting. And this is that imitate setting. You know, in the scripture when he says, do as I do, follow me, right? Imitate me, mimic me. This is where a lot of unpacking is happening, where there's a lot of empowerment happening. There's a lot of leadership development happening. And each one of our students is kind of going in and out of this framework. They're hitting the big, we're pushing them to the small, and we're eventually matching them with the one-on-one mentor to go into the tiny. And across all 3 of these, this framework, we are always developing a culture of belonging and healing. So at Justice for Youth, we work with at-promise students. These are often ones that have suffered the most trauma, right? These are the ones that have just been through it. And I love the trauma-informed training that UYWI provided, because you better be ready for trauma when you're starting to mentoring, because now you're building a rapport where kids are trusting you more than ever. And this digital connection, you're going to see they're going to be more open, because what's going to happen is that nervousness goes out the window. They feel like they could be a little bit more vulnerable. They can hide behind a camera and they can talk a little bit more without having to worry about those nonverbals, right, that you're picking up. I mean, you're going to be able to tap into so much more of an intimacy. And in that intimacy is when they're going to find God. And they happen, you kind of cultivate that intimacy. You're preparing for that true discipleship to happen as they're moving through these frameworks. And at Justice for Youth, we use these platforms. These are what work best for us. The only one we don't use, but I saw a gang of people are using, is Duo. But we use Instagram, we use Snapchat, we use Google Hangout Meets, we use FaceTime, we use Facebook video chat, and we're just starting to use TikTok. But I'll tell you, our 2 most popular include Instagram and FaceTime. These are the 2 that we're seeing out of all the kids that we're meeting with when they book in appointments with us. Those are the 2 biggest hits. So I would just recommend, consider getting some Apple products, consider leveraging an Instagram account if you have not yet started one. But we're still seeing success across the board too with many of those other platforms. It's nice to be able to offer these to students. So these are ways that you can prepare by setting up these platforms. Go ahead and feel free to throw into the chat other platforms that you're using. And I know every time I talk to a group of youth workers, it's changing each time, right? They're like, oh, now I moved to this, now I moved to that. So we have to be able to kind of move with what's going on and what's happening. Here are some pro tips. As you're practicing these forms of mentoring, I gotta tell you guys, please get out of the pulpit. Get out of the pulpit. Don't do your Wednesday night, live stream at your church. Don't do it at your church. Get out from the pulpit, okay? Kids in the urban space connect more when they see you conducting these experiences in normal spaces. Speak in normal language and make things more conversationally based. Make sure that there's a lot of interaction happening. Kick out of the window that congregational model, that charismatic leader from the pulpit, teaching, preaching. Like, it works sometimes, but what we're talking about here when it comes to spiritual mentoring and discipleship, it's not as effective. So you got to think about, okay, God, here we are. Here are all my students. Here are all the students that weren't coming, but now I have access to again. What is the most effective way to meet them? And use these pro tips to begin to develop that. I want to take a little bit of time talking about how we at Justice for Youth build a little bit more of the culture for our digital gatherings. We do significant training for our staff, and it's all around building these cultures of belonging and healing. So a couple things I'm just going to share out. If you got a pen and pad, write them down. If somebody wants to throw them in the chat, that'd be cool. But in order to help kids feel like they belong, they have to feel like they're accepted, right? And this seems like simple, but so many youth workers forget these basic things. What's going to help you mentor better is when you create this kind of a culture in every connection that you make. Kids feel like they belong when you learn to value their lives in different ways. When you begin to build deeper connections with them, they feel like they belong. When you let go of judgment, I was going to show a video, but I decided not to. But this young man in this one-on-one connection, he begins to share that he's of the homosexual lifestyle. Growing up, my family's from the neighborhood, and that's something that has always been challenging for me to meet people right where they're at. But I've learned, thank God, God has changed my heart. And I just go on like, I didn't even hear that, and I even ask questions about like, hey, what is that like, bro? Like, help me understand, and immediately that helps him feel like he belongs when I let go of my judgment. Finding similarities with you, with peers, valuing everybody's thinking, celebrating differences, validating those people, and promoting a togetherness helps people feel like they belong. How do you help people heal? Because we know that many of these students, before they can really engage God, they have to welcome God into this healing process, right? So you help people hear when you're respectful and when you're patient. Kids don't want to feel that pressure that I got to change before I can come. I have to, fix this thing before I could connect with my boy. I'll give you a story. I just did a digital mentoring appointment with the young man who I placed in a sober living place for teens. He lasted 3 weeks and then he dipped because in California, you can't make it mandatory for therapy, residential therapy. So this kid, when I reconnected with him, he was a little nervous at the first connection, and I just reassured him like, hey, bro, I'm proud of you for staying for those 3 months. Like, what a great beginning, man. And I can't wait to, keep riding with you. And I'm going to be patient along the way, just as God's being patient with you. Helping them know that you're being respectful of the process, the healing process, and being patient, listening well, continually providing support through the seasons of their life, making sure that you're reminding them of who they are and what they know and where they've been, right? Leveraging those experiences and their knowledge base and strengthening their identities. Helping to establish healthy boundaries. This helps people heal. Like, no, G, I'm not going to give you $20, bro. You asked me last time and I gave it to you once, and I'm not going to do it again because I'm only empowering you. You need to go get a job. Stop being lazy. I love you and I'm going to ride with you, but no, you're lazy. get up, go do your thing, right? Establishing boundaries is huge for healing. Don't minimize their pain, and don't say that you understand when you really don't, right? These things help build culture of belonging and healing. So now I want to go into a little bit of what we've been doing. I'm going to get out of this slide deck and come back to it, and I'm going to go to our website, and give me a head nod so I can see your faces. Can you see our website here? Awesome. So it's very simple, ju4y.org. On our homepage, there's this COVID-19 update. It takes us here. And then we've made it so accessible for our clients, our students, our families to get access to this mentoring. And I want to encourage you to begin to think about your systems that you have in place for mentoring so that kids can access you a little bit more efficiently. So they can go here and they can click on digital mentoring. Students can get a face-to-face call with the mentor. So when you click that, it pops up a lot of my team members and their faces, right? So here's Daniel, here's Dana, here's me. Ooh, I look chulo. Look at that, bro. And look at John, my boy John right there. So if you click that person, right, it'll pop up a calendar of availability. They can then go to a day and a time. They'll fill out this form, and they could click the method of communication that they would prefer. They share our social media handle, and then they add any comments like, hey, I'm shy, I'm gonna have my camera off, no biggie, right? And then boom, they can save their information, they'll continue, and it immediately sends us a confirmation email as well as them. And within the email, it has this form that's been populated. So it gives us, we don't have to have any other connection points. This is a free resource called Appointlet, and it's right here in the top right-hand corner. Feel free to use this, okay? And, you know, I'm gonna extend ourselves and just share that if anybody would like, Justice for Youth would do a tutorial, our creative and media team, on how to use this properly for those who might not be as tech savvy. So so we have our this is kind of our one-to-one here, right? Same thing on our Keep. Now, either one of these can move into larger groups. So we are booking like circles of students that go up to about 12. So the same circles that we were having on school campuses, we can now move to Zoom meetings. And now we bring all those students into one, and the power of relationship and the rapport we've built pays off, right? And then we go down, you know, let's say they need tutoring. Well, we have staff who are available for tutoring, and they can click that staff. And if you see, it talks about what they're comfortable tutoring, all subjects, math and history. And we really try to push them to our key staff member, and that's Janelle. She has our most availability. And it's dope how we can help kids, because most kids are going into distance learning right now. So if you're a school-based ministry or parachurch or organization, you have to be able to now move in rhythm with what the schools are doing with distance learning. They're using Google Classrooms. They're using Zoom. They're using Google Hangouts. At our school, at our districts, every student has a one-to-one device, and they're using Google platforms. So Google Meets is an easy way to do this. What's dope here is we provide digital mentoring to parents as well. So if you click here, they can book an appointment with our parent liaisons who are bilingual. And again, it kind of is the same platform. You also see here we have drug and alcohol supports. Every week we host that, and they can do one-on-one sessions with us. They have social bridging events. So this is my boy John and how he creates social connection on a digital platform, how to get along with your siblings, scavenger hunt, goals for dream board activities, haircut tutorial, card making. I mean, there's so much stuff that we do. Now, our focus here, in order to provide really good mentoring and different content, John is focusing on a little bit of a younger group. I'm focusing at the genuine high-risk population. So with you and your teams, you might have different forms that you consider. All right, so I'm gonna get out of here, and I'm gonna go back to my slide deck. And hopefully you guys are seeing that now. So I'm gonna go over this structure, and I know we're coming up on time, and I'm gonna be stopping here in the next 10 minutes so we could do some Q&A. But we wanna take what big looks a little bit deeper, what it looks like for us. So we use curriculum here at Justice for Youth. So I really want to encourage you, when we talk about being creators, to create content that you can use for the long term, that's adaptable and flexible. And that's something that we use in all three of these structures, the big, the small, the one-on-ones. My staff can leverage our curriculum, which has this framework to lead conversations in every form of mentoring that we have. So it could be, you know, we start with the main idea. We have a little bit of interactive questioning. We have journaling. We have application. I'm going to show a little bit of that right now. And then we also have a way for students to engage. I hope you're seeing my screen. They can engage on social media with us as well. So this is one on motivation. We have a main idea. We define it. We have supportive videos for students that we can screen share. We start asking key questions, secondary ideas, more questions to stimulate conversation. We have a journal for the creatives and those who need to kind of reflect, application points, and then this is how we engage them on their social media platforms, right? And I told UYWI that I would be willing to share a total of 5 curriculum pieces on different topics with those who are attending. If you're interested in that, just follow up with me. My email is simply eric@ju4y, and I would be happy to share that. So let me go back here, and I'll bring our conversation to a close. And I really want to end with just tapping into us being creators at this time, creating content, having rhythms of prayer, and then having accountability groups. And UYWI is kind of building that for us nationally, but I wonder what that would look like locally, having mentoring happening in your life so that as you're experiencing it, you can offer it and you more intimately understand what this looks like in your own personal lives. So now I want to get out and show you one more thing. And this is our IG Lives. So when we talk about content, I want to share some ideas, and feel free to jack things, all right? But here's just an example of what we've been doing on our Instagram Lives. So every day we have content pumping out that is a form of mentoring. This would be kind of that more broad-based mentoring, right, that's happening. So there's drug and alcohol. I did an interview with the young lady that I just met. We did some poetry reading, some cooking instructions. We brought in some guests to talk about life without sports. We did live canvas painting, some makeup tutorials. We are teaching some hard skills, how to set up sound equipment and how to, you know, become familiar with that. And that could even be a hustle for them if they want to start DJing. We did some meditation and breathing. And then you start moving down here. We're doing one on youth jobs. We're doing one tonight on gaming. So if you want to follow us tonight, you'll see me and one of my students who I've mentored for about 12 years on the gaming tip. Haircut tutorials, young parenting sessions, hip hop sessions, you name it, man, we're getting creative and we're throwing these ideas into reality. So I can share this doc with you as well. Email me, hit me up, and feel free to take as much as you'd like. I'm gonna get out of my screen sharing now, and I wanna move to the rich, I feel it's the more rich time of our conversations. And I wanna open it up for some Q&A, and now I can see the chat very clearly. And I wanna welcome some questions so that we can unpack together. And Tommy will chime in as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, so really quick, guys, just as Eric just shared a ton of information, and I know we come in a lot of different contexts, but I want to point out something that I want to make sure people get. What Eric is doing is he's created a funnel process. Am I right, Eric? Yeah. Where you saw that the big group to the smaller group to the one-on-ones. For a lot of you guys, as you think through that, I find that a lot of leaders don't think through the process of it. That you might want to start with all the content stuff that's fun, and you get them in groups and things like that, and you bring them down to things that they're going to need help with. You saw that with the tutoring or how to deal with your siblings and things like that, and so you continue to help them move through a process. And Eric and his team has thought through very deeply about how do you move from process to process so that you get to that one-on-one conversation. There are a ton of questions, Eric, in here as you were talking about, well, how do you get kids to engage when they don't feel like they need it, or they're not opting in, or they're the kids that they've been chasing. And so maybe you could talk a little bit about that, a little bit about your process too. And then you can see too on here, brother, we'll try to keep you up with what are all the questions. And go ahead, friends, go ahead, ask your questions, and Eric will get to it.
Yeah, so to answer yours, I use a couple methods. So the first is I'm first trying to convince the student themselves. When they're resistant, I go to mom and dad. I start calling parents. When parents have no power over the child, I hit the streets with social distancing in mind, and I start doing drive-bys with my mask. So I actually have a JU4Y mask. And I don't think that, some of the rules of engagement, as long as we're abiding by some of these rules and you're staying aware and protecting ourselves and respecting the laws that are in place, that's important. I think also a big one that I use is peer influence. So I'll give you an example. Some of our IG lives I do with the most popular students. And then as I leadership develop, I have them share, and then I have them DM the kid and empower that influence. And I get them every single time, man. So I mob out like this. This is my mask. And then I share those other strategies. Hopefully that helps. Let's see. In our school district, this says in our school district, they are not allowing Zoom due to mandated reporting stuff. How do you get around this? So I want to kind of correct what Tommy said, and then I'll address this. We did not take our plans to the school district. We made a decision internally that no matter what, we were going to continue this work. And we were moving like, hey, we thought we were going to continue on our furloughs and our layoffs. And we were still developing the plan. They caught wind of what we were doing. And then we began to negotiate these conversations. And they said, don't worry, we're not going to suspend your contracts. So I would just say to the person who asked this, you have to work closely with key leaders and stakeholders. And you may not have those relationships. So you might have to reach them in a roundabout way, talking to influencers that you do have relationships with and sharing of your services. But be mindful that it has to be in a comprehensive manner where busy people can see it, understand it, and then move on it. We have mandated reporting links that we require all of our staff to take, and I can make those available to you if you'd like. I think what I'll do is I'll have the UYWI team hit me with some of these requests, and I'll reply with different links. It's a quick link that general reporters have to take, and I share that with the districts. And they are happy that we're satisfying those. Tom, you got another one for me?
Let me see here. Man.
I feel like I'm missing some.
Question from Michael, how do you incentivize, is there any incentive for students to enter into the digital mentoring sessions? Like, I know you gave some ways that you kind of get them in, but do you guys have any incentives like that, or like what makes the student besides peer pressure and you rolling up on them in a mask on them? What makes you how have you created that culture to help them want to engage in it?
So it's two-pronged. I think the first one is, yes, we do incentivize it. It depends on the resources you have available to you. And this is where I got to challenge you. This is when the church's generosity has to come alive. And you are the leaders to initiate and activate that generosity, but it has to be in like practical terms. So like for us, homeless youth that are in the streets but have a smartphone, I do digital mentoring with them. But the incentive is they could come and shower in my alleyway with our outdoor showers, and I kick them down with the toiletry pack. If it's a gamer kid, like tonight, we're gonna say for the kid that beats my mentee, in the gaming, then I'm gonna kick them down with the GameWorks gift card. So the cool thing is you can incentivize very simply, or you can go big if you'd like, right? So it depends on your expressions. I think in the more private one-on-ones, the incentive is a lot more personal. It's a lot more specific. An example would be I sent a young lady who doesn't say much, and it's taken me a long time to build with her. I mailed her for her birthday. I mailed her a book that she really loves, and she was ecstatic. And she opened up like a flower blooming, and then it was her birthday, so I patched in 15 of our mentors through the Google Hangout, and we all sang to her, right? So there's just different ways that you can do that incentivizing.
Friends, I'm going to go ahead. If you want to ask a question, go ahead, unmute yourself, and just go ahead and ask it directly. And you
I have
could
a question.
Yeah.
So I live in Missouri and I work with a community of students. And so I see that you have like lots of mentoring and tutoring and things like that as you're moving to an online platform. And so I'm just wondering, am I able to refer my students to your mentoring service, even though we're in Missouri, or they have to be in the same location?
Yeah, baby, we love youth. Send them our way. And we are expanding currently across the US. And right now we're mentoring kids in Cleveland. You know, we're mentoring kids in Long Beach, like locally. So right now our board has opened up all of our offerings for free at no cost to the youth. And it's dope because the system that we're using, once it's tapped out, it's tapped out, you know, like, and we've booked our staff members to be available for X amount of time. So yes, please feel free to refer them.
Awesome. Thank you.
And I do want to say, like, that's a way for the church and nonprofits like us, we support each other. We support your movements, and there's a collaborative effort happening in that discipleship, right?
I had a question. I'm Ciara. I'm from Urban Promise, Charlotte. And our mentoring program is like an additional resource and support. It's not one of our primary programs. We function off an after-school program where we employ high school students that are at risk and like bring them on as leaders. And so we have brought on a lot of community members, church like members, different things like that to partner or mentor one-on-one with students. And so I guess our big question in this season is like, how do we like leverage those relationships, continue and like support mentors in using virtual like mentoring and support them in using those platforms that a lot of our students use, because we don't use like internal staff, and I don't know if you guys use internal staff, but we use like just people that we have built relationships with that have, you know, signed up for this and did take, you know, like background checks, but like
Okay.
it's a lot of just different church partners, different church members.
Yeah.
So we're trying to figure out like how do we like expand our support virtually to get them on board with using a lot of these things. I don't know if you have any advice.
Yes. So one thing organizationally I've learned is when your teams are cared for, the quality of the service is more beautiful, right? So ways that you can care for those mentors and activate them is by providing the necessary training, whether that be tech training or trauma-informed training, because I'm telling you, trauma will emerge during these times, and you don't want to have those mentors caught off guard and unprepared.
Right.
So I know UYWI just did one. We have like a one-pager that we've been sharing with partners. John McKellar, my staff, developed it. He got certified in that. So those would be two suggestions. And then I think the third one is just developing systems that make it easier for your partners to access these students. So this appointment, right? Like it's so smooth. Like there's little back and forth communication, and it's just been a game changer for us. And we have right now, currently, we pay, our big investment is in mentors to do the mentoring, right? So that's like our main bread and butter. But I'm now starting to welcome external folks, but they now have to go through our process,
Right.
because we are seeing the rise in demand for this service.
Hey, I see LG Stylo 2 Plus raised their hand. Not sure who that is, but go ahead and unmute and ask your question. LG Stylo, you there? Okay. Maybe as they figure that out, anybody else? Question for Eric.
I see one here that just a comment that says, it says, I do Google Hangout in partnership with school admins. They host the groups and invite me to join. So one thing I would just share to add to that is, that's beautiful. I'm so happy to hear that you do that. Admin are key stakeholders. They're the key holders, you know, to access to school and the wanting to develop relationships with. Today I was on a call with somebody that basically put me up on game on the internal conversations that are happening for schools. And now we're able to not recreate programs, but pivot programs to meet their needs. So I'll give you an example of something you all may want to be thinking about. Schools are worried about enrollment declining right now. And they're worried about charter schools that are on the rise taking this advantage of getting new enrollments, right? So we have a program called the Rescue, and we moved it to a digital space where now we are reconnecting and engaging students quickly, RESQ, and keeping them connected to the district, reassuring them that the district's taking care of business. Here are all the resources, and they see such value in that. And because I had those conversations today with admin, with district leaders, we just locked in a large contract that's gonna hold us over for the long haul. And I know I have different representatives here, but I have seen many faith-based partners be able to successfully get support from school districts to continue to do the work that you would do for free.
Hey, Eric, my name is Al Stern. I'm from the Central Valley, Dinuba. And we basically do kind of what you're doing. We have a mentoring contract with the school district. And our emphasis is working with fatherless young men. Obviously, the majority of expulsions is coming from young men that, you know, are lacking in resources in the family, yeah? So with that said, I'm really loving your software and your appointments. And I was the one that asked the question about the mandated reporting just a little bit ago. So they were doing Zoom calls, the teachers were with kids, and they were watching dads just straight up tell off kids. They were smoking bud in the background. And so all these at-promise kids that we're working with pretty much we got axed, man. We weren't able to do any mentoring whatsoever via Zoom or whatever. They sent out a memo and said, stop, everybody just stop. It was creating a caseload for them and having to send cops out left and right, you know?
Yep.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reapproach the superintendent in our district. I love what you said, and recreate a conversation, because this is when we're starting to see most dysfunctional stuff happening and abuse is going on right now as we speak with our kids as they're sitting at home, yeah? And a lot of us know that. So I really love what you said, Eric, is just really creating that conversation with the district again. And perhaps with our caseload, we can start creating that, you know, the Zooms and the Hangouts and stuff with them again.
Yeah. I would just add to it that make sure when you're re-engaging those conversations that you have hard tools that are comprehensive. And that, you know, because I think a lot of the times us youth workers, we preach to the choir, to these administrators. They know what their kids are going through. We don't have to focus on the, you know, the pain. We have to focus on the solution and the plan.
And what are those hard tools that is what you're going over?
So if I were you and I was going to have to re-engage that district leader, I would come with the one pager saying, you know, addressing the issues that we know are going to come up. So here's how our staff are trained. Here's the certification they've received. These are the systems that we have in place for protocol for reporting. Here's how we have communication systems in place to notify administrators and district leaders. And then the last thing could be something like, here are our support services for follow-up. One thing that I see lacks in the church is systems. So like if you're working with schools, You have to have general referral systems, response to referral systems. People have to know how to formally send people to you. And if you're ever called on something, you have documentation, which now is moving to a digital space. I would be happy to share those forms with you if you email me individually and
I can do
get
that.
you what you have in place.
Yeah, I'd love to have that.
Cool, man.
Brother.
Hey friends, just to frame this for you as well. Some of you guys might be like, look, I was just trying to connect some kids online, right? And this man has like, you know, these systems and all that. But I want to encourage you though, mentoring, discipleship, this movement. One of the things that God might be doing right now is just opening your mind to what he wants you to be involved in and prepare right now for after the pandemic. Friends, we need all of you who are in churches, we need you in the schools. We need this type of engagement, this kind of depth of engagement with these students. They're desperate for it. One of the reasons why you have over 1 million young people leaving the church is they do not buy into the life that they've seen us live. And they desperately want authenticity, right? And so you can give that to them. And if you think through it and you can come up and create a discipleship pathway, a mentoring pathway, this is huge. And so I don't want you to get overwhelmed by, you know what, it's just too much. Like, I'm not going to do, you know what, friends, your kids need to be mentored. They want it. Now they might act like they don't. We all did that when we were young. Like, I'm too cool. I don't need you. But we needed it. They need it. For everybody on this call, it was because somebody came alongside you and spoke into your life. That's the truth. You didn't get to where you're at because you went to one event and it blew your mind and you decided that was it. Somebody walked, it might have started at the event, but somebody walked with you and helped you get to where you're at. So I just want to frame it. You might not be doing everything that Eric's doing right now, but we want to give you a picture of what it could look like. Imagine if the church took some of these tools and was serious about it and started mentoring all the people in their community, in their schools, in their cities. This is the movement that Eric's talking about. So I just wanted to frame it a little bit because I could see some of your eyes. I could see some of you guys being like,
I want to add to that, Tommy.
Yeah, come on.
So all this came and started with me literally hitting the streets, wanting to meet kids where they were. And this is that reconsideration that I'm challenging you all to have. This is God forcing us into a space to jog our thinking, shock us into a more organic and relational type of living where it's us really living out what we believe and not staying stuck in the church. And it's here we need to build a culture of healing, because as the church, we're going to heal right now from our dysfunctions. And for some of us, we're at the schools already and we're doing this. Some of us, we're just wanting to connect to kids. And it starts with that mental healing that God will bring in our lives. And then he gives us new vision, but moving it now back down to a very practical space is, a couple more tips that I would give a few of us that are watching is, don't neglect, and this kind of rose while you were talking, the importance of a phone call, because sometimes that basic phone call or text will move you to that next step of connecting face-to-face digitally. Also, I want to remind people that are watching is like, ultimately you want to move to the most personal space that is available to you, right? So going from a text to a phone call, from a phone call to a digital mentoring space like a FaceTime. I'll tell you, I have had a hard time with my hardest youth, the hardest ones, doing digital mentoring. It has taken me like 3 weeks to get them to the place where they're finally going to book an appointment with me. And, for me, you guys know this, leaders count, right? So we have all these data documents that capture how many kids we're meeting, and we log what kinds of interactions we're having with them. And I'm telling you, with some of my kids, I'm failing, and I'm having like 4 or 5 efforts even before I get one digital appointment, So it's a beautiful mess, and we're in this together. And I think some of the things we've been talking about, it's going to push us into a space where finally, we're going to finally reach the loss. And I'm going to tell you, like, from my own personal frustrations, I cannot understand why youth pastors don't come to schools. I just cannot understand it. So what Tommy's sharing, like, maybe you've been so consumed with, your church, and now you're realizing, dang, my church kids, even they're big timing me, and I don't even have anybody to mentor. I can't even get on a call with these kids. Well, maybe God's opening your eyes, to the wedding banquet parable. And he's saying, hey, these people who I've been inviting, they're not coming. So go out, and I want you to find those that are out there, and they'll come, right? Maybe God's shifting us in this urbanization that's happening globally. He's saying, dude, we're focusing sometimes and putting our efforts in the wrong spaces. Don't neglect these public spaces that I have opened for you. You just haven't even thought about going there. So church, school, these basic frameworks are important. You adapt them and move them into your space, and we'll be able to see the church come alive, man. So I don't know if I've missed. Yes.
So I know you're talking about like systems, and I think that's great, like everything you're saying. I guess while you were talking and like even saying about how long it's taking you to get kids to buy in, what are you doing? Because I imagine it sounds like your org is very established. We're running into the issue of like, how do we keep accountable, like one-on-one, when we're having those mentoring moments with them, and like when we're making those calls, because our org wants to make sure that, nothing is lost or like mistranslated or miscommunicated or misconstrued in a wrong way, or like a he said, she said type deal. So like, what are you doing to navigate that?
Yeah, so I'll share a screen, but I will also share that for so many of us, we have to be able to really invest where it's going to make sense for us. And this is where, like, as a youth worker right now, maybe your role moves away from mentoring for a short period of time and you start fundraising, because you're going to need a business account for Zoom so you could record your meetings, and they have that recording option. The other thing that we do, and I kind of hinted to it, and I'm going to pull one of them up. This is our COVID-19 case notes, and give me 1 second. Let me just share my screen, and I promise, Tommy, it won't be too long. Let me know. Can you shake your heads? Let me know you see it. All right. So if you see, these are kids that are outside of our districts that we're meeting, and we're tracking and logging everything. So the date, the student name, the program, a summary of our connection, right? In addition to basic case notes, investment in, if you see here, look, college student was suicidal. We supported her and encouraged her to receive mental health support. I've developed a follow-up plan for student moving forward. Anything and everything that you can do to protect yourselves, that's important. So that basic Google Doc acted as a system. Being able to record those meetings is so important. So us pushing kids to Zoom, us pushing kids to Google Meet, maybe it takes us some time to get them there, but finally when we get them on these other platforms, we build the rapport, we earn their trust, and it helps us get in that place. And I just want to share, our organization is only 3 years old, so we're not well established. It's just been a lot of, learning and being willing to pivot and having an excellent team that's diverse and with different skill sets. So a lot of this leadership stuff, for some of us, we have to now leverage our leadership learning to make sure that we have the right people on our teams. And so the pastor in me makes me want to kind of talk about this too, is like, dude, maybe you got the wrong people on your team and they should have been gone a long time ago, and you got to get them out the door. And maybe you got to go bare bones. And this is where God is telling you, like, these are the people that need to be involved. And these are the skill sets that leaders need to have. And you've missed that. And you need to get back to what I want, So I don't know. I go on for days about that stuff, but.
Hey, Eric, man, thank you so much. If there's somebody else with like a burning question that they were just waiting to hope, to get on, go ahead, do it right now, because I'm about to wrap up. You guys good?
I see one here on the bottom, Tommy.
Go ahead.
It says your organization is doing various types of meeting sizes. Which one do you see being most effective in the virtual format? Oh, that's easy. One-on-one. One-on-one. Our one-on-ones are 15 minutes long. And what that does is it does several things for us. We use the first 5 minutes for check-in, the second 5 minutes development plan, and the last 5 minutes we use for resourcing and empowering. So, and the reason why we chose it to be 15 minutes is because kids' attention spans are short. We need to create a demand. So as soon as they're done, when they feel that comfort and that belonging and that healing space, they want more of that. It drives our numbers up, and it helps us to kind of strengthen their support systems. One of the challenges we always do is we challenge them to book another appointment with another mentor other than the one that they're so comfortable with. So we're developing their social skills. And in the kingdom, I mean, you think about discipleship, don't miss what I'm saying. How important is it for your students to know how to be able to start conversations with people from different backgrounds so they could be gospel fluent and share the gospel with those people? How important is it for them to have a strong sense of identity so they could go anywhere, be sent anywhere, and with full confidence share the gospel? Like, don't miss what we're talking about in a mentoring framework and not being able to translate that in a kingdom framework. So I see, Tommy, we got what, like 5 more minutes for Q&A or no?
Yeah, well, I was actually going to wrap it up right now. And so thank you so much, Eric, man. You were amazing, brother. I love all the work you guys do. And so as we kind of wrap up, we have one more thing for you guys. We want to make sure that that we're working really hard to create national networks around, all over the country. Make sure you guys are a resource so that we can help you create groups or support the ones you already have going on. And so we're doing that. And one way, the entry point for all that is our Facebook group. And so my man, Sean Finner, he's heading that up. And so he's not on the call today, but he's heading that up. And so we put the link in the chat for the Facebook group. Would you please, if you're doing this work, we want you in that group so we can better connect with you. And we just created a whole, basically like a toolkit to start networks and to support them, to help you guys do this kind of work and to continue even after this pandemic. And so please, it's on there. We want to make sure how we're encouraging you, caring for you, and resourcing you. We're going to have our next Zoom call next Thursday, April 16th. 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's going to be a conversation with several youth workers on engaging youth in the new normal and what methods are seeing success. And so as we're on the ground real time, we're seeing what is actually working for people around the country. We want to bring that to you guys, make sure we're all moving in that. So that's going to be next week. If you can, follow our social media and our emails. We want to make sure you have everything you have. If you're out there running a nonprofit or you're a church, and you're trying to figure out the PPP with the SBA, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, there's money out there to help you continue and not shut down. And so we just sent out an email about that. And so bless you. I was praying for you guys on that whole thing just to make sure that you are sustained and God's going to take care of you. Lastly is this. We have one more resource for you. I want to introduce my friend Michael Freeman, who has been doing mentoring for a long time. He's what we would call an OG in the mentor game. And he actually has a resource that he'd like to share with you as well. And part of it is, for some of you guys, you might be like, man, Eric feels like he's light years ahead of me. And for some of you, you might just be like, I don't even know what questions to ask during a mentoring call. Well, my friend Michael Freeman here, they actually created an app called Go Mentor. So Michael, can you just share a couple minutes with us what it is? And then we're going to put that into the chat. And so Go ahead, Mike. Let us know.
Okay, great. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to present what we have. We have an app called, well, the version that has Bible verses is called 𝐷𝐾𝗪𝐈 Church. And the version that you would need to use in a secular environment like a public school is called 𝐷𝐾𝗪 Youth. And you can get that app, just simply go to your app store and download it. You can download both so that you have the flexibility of using both for whatever situation you're in. We've been doing mentoring now in urban schools in Compton, Long Beach, and Linwood for 18 years now, since 2002. And we've developed a lot of curriculum, and we've been able to pack a lot of our curriculum into our app. We actually have 90 sessions, 90 mentoring conversations. We call them transformative mentoring conversations, because literally, if you do it right, the students will have transformative moments. They'll have aha moments in the midst of those conversations. But it's very simple to use. It's laid out very simply. Every mentoring conversation starts with a conversation starter. The conversation starters are always a video. And you know, we're in the YouTube generation now. So everybody likes to watch YouTube videos. So all these videos are YouTube videos on, they fit into four different categories: real life videos, music videos, sports videos, and praise dance videos. Praise dance, of course, is in the church version. When you use it, you would have your students just watch. If you're doing it remotely, just have them download the app. They watch the video. The very first thing that comes up when you click on a session is the video. They watch the video. And then after the video, the next thing that pops up on the screen are the conversation questions. And the first 2 or 3 conversation questions always tie back to the video. So it gives you an easy, smooth transition into your conversation on whatever topic it is that the video introduces. And then the rest of the questions lead you in a path where you can really help the mentee share about what's going on in their lives related to the topic. And it leads them to personal application, all the way down to personal application. So, of course, you can insert your own questions as you go along, follow-up questions. You should be sharing your own nuggets of wisdom as you go along in the conversation. It's a conversation, so it should be going both ways. It shouldn't be just an interview or interrogation type thing. So you should be sharing as well. But it's a great tool that anybody can use anywhere at any time. It's free, it's accessible. I could post a link to where if you could just go to your app store and download 𝐷𝐾𝗪𝐈 Church or 𝐷𝐾𝗪𝐈 Youth, but we also have a link on our website that you can click on to get to that same place as well. But we love to see people use it. Oh, here's the other thing. At the end of the conversation, at the end of the questions, there's a button, a blue button that says, go to survey. Please, if you use it, click on that button, go to the survey. The next page that will come up will have a list of youth organizations listed. At the very top of the list, we're putting that on the very top, it will say UYWI. If you use it and you're in the, obviously you're in the UYWI network, click on UYWI. The next thing that will come up will be the actual survey. Fill out the survey. It'll only take you about 30 seconds. It's very simple. And then click submit. UYWI will get the information. We'll see, wow, there's people all over the country using this tool and having great mentoring conversations with the urban youth that are in their sphere of influence. So that's it in a nutshell. There's an article that they're going to publish that has more details of how to use the app and how to have a great mentoring conversation.
Thank you so much, Michael. I so appreciate it. Guys, we're here with you, and we just want to make sure you're resourced. And so if you're just trying to, we had somebody on here that were like, hey, I'm new to all this, but how do I jump in? These are resources, how you jump in and how you start figuring this out. But if I just want to encourage you, just keep trying. It matters. The youth remember that you tried. You know what I mean? And that's so important. So keep at it. Keep pushing through. You can check out the app. Obviously, Eric has been super helpful today. You can email him. He even offered to help be, offer those mentoring services, which is kind of huge. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but that was kind of a big deal, just to offer that. Michael is saying, hey, look, we had this, we created this, use it. So we just want to make sure that you guys are resourced, and we're so proud of all of you guys. Thank you for continuing to press in to fight for the lives of these youth that you love, that are in your communities and in your cities. So if it's okay, I'm going to go ahead and pray us out, and just bless you guys. Let's pray. Holy Spirit, right now, Lord, it has been one heck of a day. I know for me, Lord, and I know we're all around the country in different spaces. Holy Spirit, would you just rest right now on all of these leaders that are on this call? May we even physically feel you from the top of our head. Let our shoulders drop. Just relax, breathe for a moment, God, and realize that you are still God, that you love us, that you're proud of us, that you're going to give us everything we need to do the work that you called us to do. God, help us know that we're not going to lack the things we need to actually do the things you've called us to. But Lord, would you open our eyes, move our hearts and our minds towards obedience, God? And would you strengthen us tonight? Urban Youth Workers, I bless you right now. I hope that you have amazing sleep tonight, that you are able to wake up tomorrow refreshed, with hope and renewed, so that you can get up and do what God's called you to do. We love you so much, God. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you, brothers and sisters. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Eric. Bless you guys. We're with you, and we'll see you guys on the Facebook page, and we'll see you next week. Peace.